Anytime Maritime.
Possibilities and explore the potential of our country to become a dominant force in the maritime industry. Please all rise for the Philippine National Anthem.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Please remain standing for our invocation. Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering us all today in this important endeavor. We ask that you bestow your guidance and blessing upon each family. May we honor one another with you all the time. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. Bless everyone present today, that each may be able to share his or her contributions and gifts. Grant good health and safety to loved ones, bless outside this room, and bestow peace and deliverance all of us. We ask for your wisdom and grace to use our talents for the betterment of others. May the various activities related to this day be a success through your intervention. With gratitude, we offer this prayer in your name. Amen. You may now take your seats. To give us an opening remarks, I now invite Dr. Nelson Prias, PMMA Alumni Association Incorporated Vice President for External Affairs, to deliver his speech.
Thank you, Engineer Vera. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and esteemed colleagues, good afternoon and welcome to the third Blue Ocean Forum. It is both an honor and a privilege to be here with you today at the Manila Ocean Park as we discuss a theme that holds immense importance for our nation, the Philippines as a future maritime powerhouse, assessing the possibilities. At the outset, allow me to extend a warm welcome to our special guest, former Marina administrators who have significantly shaped our maritime industry, Mr. Vicente Suazo, sir, Dr. Marshall Amaro, sir, and our current administrator, Ms. Sonia Malaluan. Your presence here today underscores the continuity of our shared commitment to the progress of the Philippine maritime sector. As we begin our discussions, it is essential to recognize the rich maritime heritage that the Philippines boasts a legacy that spans centuries. It has seen our countrymen excel in seafaring and shipbuilding. However, while our maritime history is illustrious, the future beckons with even greater potential. Today, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment. With over 7,000 islands, the Philippines is strategically positioned at the heart of the global shipping routes. Our seafarers are among the best in the world, and our maritime industry is a cornerstone of our economy. But the question before us is, how do we harness these strengths to position the Philippines as a maritime powerhouse in the 21st century? This forum presents an opportunity to explore the possibilities, whether it's through enhancing our maritime infrastructure, fostering innovation and sustainability, strengthening international partnerships. We must also consider the crucial role of education and training in preparing the next generation of maritime professionals to meet the demands of an evolving industry. As we assess these possibilities, I encourage each one of you to share your insights, experiences, and vision. Let us collaborate to chart a course that will not only elevate our maritime sector, but also contribute to the economic and social development of our nation. Lastly, I would like to express my gratitude to all of you for your commitment to this cause. The discussion and ideas that will emerge from this forum will undoubtedly play a crucial role in shaping the future of our maritime industry. Together, we can turn these possibilities into realities. Thank you, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Nelson, for the great start of our event. To introduce our esteemed panel of guests, we will share their insights and experiences on the topic. Please welcome Captain Ricky Victoria, our Vice President for Internal Affairs.
Thank you, Vera. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Possibly the most difficult task today to introduce three distinguished people, personalities who have one common denominator, and I think you all know it already. This is the first time that three administrators are gathered together to share their knowledge, their expertise to all of us. I would like to start with my former classmate. And I'm very lucky to have been his classmate. I've known him in 1978 when we reported for our orientation program at PMMA in Fort Bonifacio. That year, we already parted ways immediately because he took the marine engineering and I took the nautical science. But we were in the same quarters for the rest of our days until we graduated in 1982. He studied, he took his master's in business administration, had some units in 1984, and then another master's degree in shipping business management from the PMMA Graduate School in the year 2003. And then he had his Doctor of Philosophy, major in management from the International Academy of Management and Economics in 2011. In his younger years, in year 2002, he co-authored 2 textbooks. If you remember, during those years, our maritime education were lacking books or the textbooks to be used. Most of the books that we use were imported. So the maritime teaching aid during that time have promoted for Filipinos to produce our own textbooks for the maritime students. And he is among those who contributed, and he co-authored two very important books in engineering. One is thermodynamics, and the other one is mechanics and hydromechanics. These two books were both published by MARTA, Maritime Teaching Aid, and very likely they are still being used until today by the marine engineering students of the Philippines. He also is an active and reserve force of the Philippine Marines. He is, I know at one point during his annual training, that then Mayor and became Vice President Pedro Marbinay was his classmate. And in the industry, he has been involved from the time he graduated. He became a marine engineer officer from 82 to 1992, and then from 95 to 96, he was a project consultant of the International Maritime Organization. 2000 and 2006, he was a Commission on Higher Education technical assessor for maritime education, and then he also helped the TESDA, our Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, from 1999 to 2007. This gentleman has been well trained and well educated. He is not only a very technical person because he is an engineer, but he is also into management and government service. Among his previous engagements, he was marine personnel for Philippine Transmarine Carriers. He was the Dean of Marine Engineering, the Asian Institute of Maritime Studies. He was a surveyor, assessor of the American Bureau of Shipping, ABS. He was a vice president of TransOrient Maritime. He was a proprietor of Amtech Consulting. He was an auditor and assessor of Lloyd's Register of Shipping. He was a lecturer of German Sir Lloyd Maritime Academy in the Philippines, safety consultant of Bataan Refinery Corporation. He was an ISO 9001 lead auditor for Anglo-Japanese American Register. He was a safety consultant of Petron Corporation. He was a flag auditor, inspector, and accident investigator of Liberian International Ship and Corporate Registry, Liberian flags. He was a chairman of the technical panel on maritime education. He was a member of the board of directors of the Philippine Ports Authority. That was in 2016 up to 2018. He was a facilitator for IMO Model Course 609 and IMO Model Course 312 of the Philippine Association of Maritime Training Centers, PAMPCI. He was a dean of the School of Graduate Studies of Asian Institute of Maritime Studies. His present engagements are from 2018 to present. He is a lecturer at the Det Norske Veritas Maritime Academy of the Philippines, DNV. February to present, 2018 to present, also an auditor, inspector, and accident investigator of Liberian flag, Liberian International Ship Register. In 2018 to present, he set up his own company. He is the president and CEO of the Strategic Maritime Solutions, or known as SMS Corporation. His qualifications, I think there's only one that I been part of, one of his qualifications when we took the scuba diving course in the Philippine Marines. But here's the long list. He's the most outstanding seafarer of the year award, conferred by no other than the Vice President Teofisto Gingona. That was in 2003. He is a lecturer for various advanced maritime courses. He is a certified lead auditor for ISO 9001, ISO 1401, ISO 2022-01, ISO 45001, and OSAS 1801. He is a certified IHM survey for Liberian International Ship Register. He is an accredited inspector, surveyor, accident investigator, and lead auditor for ISM, ISPS, and MLC for the Liberian International Ship Registry. He is a member of the Philippine Committee of the Nippon Kaiji Kyokai, Class NK. He is a certified NEBOS from UK. This is the occupational safety and health. He is a SIRE inspector certified by OCIMF. He is a DNV certificate of competence for ship superintendent. First in the Philippines to have received the COC for ship superintendency. He is a licensed chief marine engineer. He is a Bachelor of Science in Marine Transportation, where we went together. He is a Master in Business Administration, Master in Shipping Business Management, Doctor of Philosophy, and Doctor Fellow of Royal Institute of Maritime Management, Singapore in 2017. There's still a long list of the other training, which I have to apologize. I have to cut this shorter. Please welcome Dr. Marshall QC Amaro III. Sir. Seating arrangement number. Thank you very much. Now for our second panelist, resource person. He is from Ormoc, Leyte. Bisaya gihapon. And one thing that really impressed me is his achievements despite the degree only that he took from San Sebastian College, major in management. He took the Bachelor of Science in Commerce. But the achievements that follows here are really, really impressive. So those young guys there, like me, who wants to understand how a certain gentleman can rise from the ranks and start a lot of new things for the Philippines. That was, he graduated in 1967 and already served. His first job was casual clerk in the Tax Information Division of the BIR. And then from there, he moved over to where we are now in the shipping and maritime industry. He joined the office of the Special Commission on Port Administration. So remember, during that time, yun pa ang pangalan, there is no Ports Authority yet. That was in 1968. He was appointed to the position as Port Administration Assistant. In the succeeding years, from the time he started in the port administration, he was the counterpart for the UNDP, the United Nations Development Program, IDRD, the Philippine Ports Feasibility Study. That was port management, operations, and financial consultant with foreign partners. So we were learning, he was learning from the best of UN and other countries who are best in port administration. That's how he was learning his expertise. In the phase 2 of the UNDP, IDRD Philippine Ports Feasibility Study, he was named the counterpart to Mr. Kone for Port Financial Consultant. He was detailed to the National Economic Development Authority, NEDA, the Bureau of Public Works, during that time, DPW, Port Feasibility Study Project, as Shipping, Port Administration, and Operations Specialist in November 1973. In 1974, a month after the promulgation of the Presidential Decree 506, creating the Philippine Ports Authority. So that was only then that we have the Philippine Ports Authority, and the gentleman now is the one, our pioneer who started the Ports Authority. He was directed to assist the newly appointed PPA Acting General Manager. It was then the Navy Captain Mariano Nicanor to organize the Philippine Ports Authority. He assisted in the SGV consultants in the drafting of Presidential Decree 857, otherwise known as the amended charter of the Philippine Ports Authority. In 1976, he organized the PPA branch office in the Port of Cebu and was appointed as the first port manager, and he managed the Port of Cebu for 6 years up to 1982. He was reassigned to the Port of Davao as the port manager up to 1986. And then he came back to the Port of Manila in April 1986 after the EDSA Revolution. He was the port manager of PPA Manila. He was the designated general manager of PPA Manila International Container Terminal Services, which provided cargo handling services to all the foreign container ships calling in a concurrent capacity as port manager of Manila and port district manager of Luzon. He was promoted to the position of assistant general manager for operations. This is the second highest position in PPA during that time by Her Excellency President Cory Aquino in 1988. He was retained to the position by President Fidel Ramos up to 1993. He was the designated special assistant to the secretary in 1992 by the DOTC Secretary Jesus Garcia Jr., in addition to his duties as PPA Assistant General Manager. His most significant accomplishment was the successful privatization of the Manila International Container Terminal, MICT, having participated as a member of the Bids and Awards Committee and was the one who signed and awarded the contract for the International Container Terminal Services. This was in 1988. He was the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer from 1996 to 2000 of the Integrated Bulk Fleet Marine Services Corporation. He organized the Harbor Center Port Terminal in 1996. He was the port advisor of R2 Builders in 1995 in Tondo, Manila. He was the port shipping advisor of Herma Shipping in 1995 to 96 and then in 2009. He was appointed by Her Excellency Gloria Macapagal Arroyo as member of the Board of Directors of the Public Estates Authority, now Philippine Reclamation Authority, PRA, in March 2003 and served until June 2006. From March 2004 to he served as head of executive assistant of the administrator of the light rail transit. He was appointed by President Arroyo, again, Gloria Arroyo, in 2008 as Commissioner of the Cebu Port Authority. He was the Vice Chairman and concurrent General Manager of the Cebu Port Authority on March 2010 by its Board of Commissioners. He was reappointed Commissioner of the Cebu Port Authority by His Excellency President Benigno Aquino and served until August 2011. He was the Executive Vice President of Reyes and Lim Company from 2008 to 2012. He is still holding several current positions as President of BMMS Consultancy, President of Sands Unlimited, Managing Director of OmniPrime Marketing, Ports and Shipping Consultant of Fujitrans. He is the Chairman of Global Enterprises Philippines Incorporated, a subsidiary company of Global Japan. Shipping Ports and Logistics Consultant, Director of Amigo Logistics, Chairman of Bulwark Transport, Chairman and CEO of One Horizon. He underwent a lot of trainings, and one of them is under the UN UNCTAD for port management operations, Malaysia and Singapore. Last but not the least of these achievements, he also was, like our first introduced guest, Marina Administrator, appointed by Gloria Macapagal Arroyo in 2004 up to August 2008. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our former Marina Administrator, Mr. Vicente T. Suazo Jr. And our third, but not the least, distinguished guest, she graduated from University of Batangas in 1987. Bachelor of Science in Commerce, major in accounting. Then she took her Master Science degree in shipping management from the World Maritime University, WMU in Malmö, Sweden, in 1998. And then she took another master's degree in public administration from Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, the National University of Singapore, in the year 2011. Her work experience started, I'm looking at only 2 years from graduation. She joined Marina and she never left. This is really one of a kind and very impressive to serve the government and marry your career in the government for the people of the Republic of the Philippines. It is very impressive indeed. He started as management and audit analyst in 1989. Remember, she graduated in 1987. And then she went on to be the designated executive assistant for the Office of the Administrator in 1992 up to 97. Then she became the Chief Policy Review and Development Division, Planning and Policy Services, 1999. She was a Chief Accountant, Management, Financial and Administrative Services from January 2000 to 2007. She was an OIC Administrative and Finance Office from June 2007 to 2010. She is the Chief Manpower Development Division, Manpower Development Service from April to December in 2012. OIC Management, Financial and Administrative Services, January 2013 to 2014. And Director for Management, Financial and Administrative Services, 2014 to 2015. Director, Manpower Development Services, 2015. Regional Director, Marina Regional Office, Region 1 and 2, from 2015 to 2017. Director for Domestic Shipping Services, from 2017 to 2018. Designated OIC, Office of the Deputy Administrator for Planning, October-November 2018. She became a Maritime Attaché in London, UK, 2018 to 2021. She was a Director for Manpower Development Service in 2022. Director, Marina Regional Office, National Capital Region, in the concurrent capacity. He is designated Office in Charge, Office of the Deputy Administrator for Planning, 2022 to November 2022. Deputy Administrator for Planning, December 22 to November 2023. I will skip the last one. And other relevant work experiences and accomplishments. She played a major role in the following: Marina's organizational changes, including development and issuance of policies, rules and regulations, assumption of flag state functions pursuant to Executive Order number 125-125A, the establishment of the Marina regional offices and extension office nationwide, the rationalization plan for Marina in 2008, Marina's assumption of functions as the single maritime administration in the implementation of STCW Convention as amended, review and revision of Marina's organizational structure, staffing plan in 2023. She developed the Marina Roadmap for the development of the country's domestic shipping industry as part of the Maritime Industry Development Plan, MIDP. She gained awards during her time as Chief Accountant in the Marina Accounting Division, received the Hall of Fame Award as Best Accounting Unit from the Association of Government Accountants of the Philippines. She was recognized as one of the 10 most outstanding alumni of the Alitagtag Colleges in 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, our third guest speaker, resource person. She is the current administrator of maritime industry from December 18, 2023 up to present. Please welcome Ms. Sonia B. Malaluan, the Administrator of Maritime Industry Authority.
Ladies in the middle. May I call Captain Jerry Simon, Coast Guard CGA Commodore Jerry Simon, as to be our moderator during the following. We are informing everyone that we are live streaming in the Facebook page of the Philippine Merchant Marine Academy, Alumni Association Incorporated.
Good afternoon, everyone. Isang magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Sa mga nanonood po sa atin dito sa Pilipinas and sa North America, marami rin po nag-aabang ang PMMA chapter sa United States, sa Singapore, sa Japan. I believe meron pa yata nag-text sa akin from Mexico. So, mga nasa barko po. And this afternoon, we're blessed with the three Marina administrators of their time and the present time. Of course, Dr. Engineer Al Amaro, si Sir Vic Suaso, and Ma'am Sonia, who is our current Marina administrator. Okay, so since medyo marami po nag-aabang, medyo umpisahan na po natin, sir. Ma'am. Okay, so if you will see the theme of this Blue Ocean Forum this afternoon is the Philippines as a future maritime powerhouse. So assessing the possibilities. Pero lately, medyo marami po tayong challenges and magkakaiba po kasi kayo, Sir Vic, Sir Al, Ma'am Sonia, ng panahon, no? And ang maritime, sa alam po natin, is very, very strategic. So, pwede yung ginawa ni Sir Vic noon, ngayon lang natin mararamdaman, o pwede hindi natin mararamdaman yung gagawin ni Ma'am Sonia ngayon, pwedeng 30 years from now pa po natin mararamdaman. Dahil yun po ang maritime. You have to plan for it, you have to think about it, and mahabaan ang suporta ng lahat. So, to fire up, ang una kong tanong sa kanilang lahat, no? What's the biggest maritime accident that happened during your term as Marina Administrator? So, since si Sir Vic ang nauna sa kanila, Sir, can you please explain and tell us what happened during your time? Ano yung biggest? Isa lang, sir. Isa lang. Sa tingin ninyo.
Dalawa yun sa akin.
Dalawa sa
Yeah. During my time, I had two major accidents. One was the the oil spill in Guimaras. I think it was in August of 11. It was at Isola it sunk in the coast of Guimaras. And the other one was, of course, the dissipated Princess of the Staff.
Wow.
So, yun ang dalawang big disasters.
Mabigat yun, Sir.
Yes.
Mabigat yun, Sir. If I may, kay Sir Al naman, Sir, noong time mo, ano naman yung inabot nyo? This is a Duterte administration, eh. If I'm not mistaken, no?
Well, medyo maganda yung aking panahon doon kasi isa lang yung aking problema doon sa local, pero meron akong isang international. Now, it was very tragic. It was about Starlight Atlantic. Maybe you heard about it. There were 18 fatalities, 11 of which puro mga Katete. Nangyari yon a day after December 25. It was December 26, 11 o'clock in the morning in 2016. Siya po yung pinaka-grabe na aksidente na nangyari during that time. But I also have one international incident wherein one of the Philippine flag vessel container ship, ACX Crystal, which was involved in collision with the USS Fitzgerald in Japan. Yeah. And it also resulted to fatalities. There were 7 U.S. Navy personnel who died during that time. So, meron po tayong local, meron po tayong international. Yung po yung nangyari during that time.
Yung pinakamabigat sa iyo, Sir.
Yung pinakamabigat. Actually, there were no more accidents during my time. Except yung Atlantic lang, Starlight Atlantic in the domestic. There was none for about 18 months. Wala pong ibang accident.
Thank you, Sir Al. Ma'am Sonia, this is your current time and upon your assumption, in fairness. So, yun lang po sa inyo.
Good afternoon, first and foremost. No? Well, 8 months in the position, we know the recent incident involving the M-Tanker Terra Nova. It's an accident or incident. However, I could say that the best part of it is, and I commend the Coast Guard and the ship owners and everybody concerned, because we were able to contain and prevent a very catastrophic environmental damage. Because the 1.4 million liters of oil, though under the sea, the team were able to contain and have the cargo intact, and they have started siphoning the cargo. So, in terms of environmental damage, medyo minimal, no? And that's a good thing. Meaning we were able to respond and learn from the Princess Empress. That was 2023. Ang ano lang dito we have this incident after the Terra Nova made the wicket, another 2 vessels, Jason Bradley and Mirola. But both of which, there is no casualty of Terra Nova. We have 1 casualty. So Jason Bradley and Mirola, we don't have any casualty. Or very small amount of oil that were spilled. So, sana that be the last during this administration.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, kasi po kaya po natin inumpisahan sa mga naging problema kasi we're trying to assess the possibility how to become a powerhouse. Kasi ang premise po is worldwide, technically speaking, we are already running the world. Tanggalin niyo lahat ng mga Pilipino sa 30% ng mga barko sa buong mundo, tigil po ang trade ng buong mundo. Okay? So, yun po yung kanilang premise. No? So, sa atin naman, because we're already, sabi nga na itong administrasyon na to, mga low-hanging fruits. So, low-hanging fruits na yung tinatamasa natin, pero maraming challenges. And sa challenges po na nakita natin, meron po kami nakita. Sa perspective po ninyong tatlo, Meron po ba kayong nakita mga policy o mahirap na naging policy that involves the result for economics or safety na na-compromise yung decision-making ninyo while you're creating policies? Anybody can answer first.
Okay. When I started with Marina, I had to study first the charter. What is the most important points of functions of Marina in the charter? It has to be emphasized. Okay? And one of them is that the maritime industry in the Philippines should be able to contribute to economic development. And if I remember right, way back in the time of Jose Rizal, during his time, he already predicted that the Philippines would be one of these days would be a great maritime nation. But up to now, I believe personally, it's still editorial. We're still aiming to reach that prediction. We have been trying to do that, even when I started trying to introduce the changes when I came in. And we have to look into the functions of Marina because we've been dealing too much on the seafarers. But even if we spend a lot of time on seafarers, we have not improved the situations of the seafarers. In fact, during my time, I would say, stop bragging that we are number one. Because other countries are starting to fight. Look at what's happening now. Let's evaluate what's wrong with us. We say, okay, we're number one. But look where the other nations are now coming up.
It's declining, sir. It's declining. The numbers are declining.
Because we are complacent on everything because Filipinos will be hiding. But you know, like for instance now, let us let emphasis. It's very obvious that they try to come in. Because there are European people who like to come back. There is nothing to do in Poland. They used to be in maritime. Now they would like to go on board. The other countries are coming up also. Indians, even with Indonesians, they're catching up. Because at Makita, tayo, number one. No? That's why we should stop saying that. But let's try to do our best to improve further. And that is what I'm trying to do. And then I'm sure that our colleagues, my colleagues now, and my former colleagues are trying to do, and all the people in the industry. And then the other thing also, we had all the privileges. What? We have the well-trained people in the ship management. Why don't we have more vessels to be registered here in the Philippines?
So, ano yung challenge, sir? Sa nakita mo ng time mo, sir?
Nung time ko, ang problema, no matter what you do to introduce, there will always be some pressures for you not to proceed. And I tell you honestly, the reason why I quit at Marina is because of that.
Okay, sir. Ngumiti si Dr. Amaro. I think he has something to say. Bago ako lumipat kay Ma'am Sonia. Sir Al, can you please share with us your thoughts during your time, no?
Naningiti ako yung kay Sir Vic kasi I know Sir Vic for years. And that is true actually. Ang dami pong dapat gawin sa Pilipinas. We are actually a maritime nation as we declare it. Unfortunately, we're not showing it to the world. We're still in the process of improving ourselves because internally we need to, to solve a lot of, should I say, forces, counter forces inside na dapat natin ma-resolve muna. Now, I would like to make mention about one of the things when you're talking about the economy. Kasi nasabi naman na ni Sir Vic yung iba. I would like to deviate a little bit and talk about the economy. No? One of the problems that I saw during my time was actually about the cabotage law. The cabotage law was very restrictive. Now, although it protects somehow kung paano natin maproteksyonan ang ating domestic shipping, but unfortunately, we follow the Jones Law of the United States. Actually, under the Republic Act, if I'm not mistaken, 1937, 1957, when we have the first law copying the Jones Law of the United States, na-restrict talaga natin yung shipping within Filipinos lang. Hindi sila pwedeng pumasok dito. And then we try to parang lose a little bit in 2004, again under the Republic Act 9295, wherein we allow now the entry of other ships, but very limited. Until such time in 2014, I hope I'm right, under the 10668 Republic Act, wherein we actually allow now the foreign flag vessels with special permits. Siyempre, hindi naman yung absolute, yung the co-loading we call it, na pwede lang pumunta from one port to another, but they should have a special permit during that time.
Specific projects.
That is right. Unfortunately, I would like to show you kung ano yung impact na sa economy natin. A lot of people would not know about this, but if you're sending a product from Mindanao, for example, in Cagayan de Oro, going to Manila, is double or probably more than double the expense or the cost that you would pay from Manila to Hong Kong or Manila to Singapore. That is how expensive our domestic is. So not only that we're talking about the expense, but we're talking about the restrictions on coming in from like the technology to adapt. Because ating-ating so tayo lang, walang improvement when it comes to technology. Kaya natin kung ano yung technology natin. Because we're not competing with anybody but ourselves. So okay lang kung ano yung meron tayo. So I think we need to improve on that particular aspect. Yun yung nakikita ko, one big policy that needs to be improved sa Pilipinas for us to be able at least to come up with kind of near to Singapore.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am Sonia, is it still the same that the problem na na-encounter ni Sir Vic and ni Sir Al?
Yeah, I guess both of the challenges they had before still exist.
Minana niyo.
Yes, and it's a continuing challenge because it's indeed very difficult for the administrator and the marina to balance the economic side, safety, environment, and all other considerations that we are trying to achieve. And in fact, to even provide a transport system that is affordable, economical, accessible, safe, it's a delicate balance, not to mention all the forces that Sir Vic mentioned, that when you're trying to introduce something new, you will get punches from everywhere. And that's, you haven't even started implementing and you're almost overwhelmed and have received all those punches. And it is true that we still need to update ourselves and the industry in terms of technology. Technology is developing very fast, and the problem is we are always lagging behind. And the problem, even worse, is lagging far behind. It's okay if we are lagging behind a little, but it's like we are miles away from others. So that's one challenge, because unless we bring the industry up to the current level of technology, efficiency, competitiveness in terms of economics, the level of safety standards, global standards, then we cannot make the maritime industry and the Philippines as a powerhouse in Asia. All of these factors should be considered, and measures should address all of them. And tell you, now I realize it's not an easy job. 8 months in the position, it's not easy.
May I add on to what
Yes, Sir Vic.
Al mentioned about, what you call expensive from here to there. I already realized that way back. And then, in fact, when I was administrator, I was paying let's start with the local shipping, okay? A matter of practice, they all leave on the same day. Example, Sunday. They all leave Sunday here and they all go to Cebu and congest Cebu port. I'm talking here as part shipping and part ports. Because they've been, when I was in PPA, no, why don't you expand the port? I said, look, Mondays in Cebu, full. Tuesday, you can play golf inside the port, you can surf around. And so let's look into the scheduling of the vessels. So I was telling the shipping companies, look, why don't you guys go on a cold loading arrangement, okay? Give me a foreign vessel now carrying containers. You will notice that they are not carrying the containers alone. It is a mix. Before, yes, evergreen, silang, but now no more. It's a multi-containers there because they're cold loading. So I said, why don't you do it? Because the competition in the Philippines when it comes to shipping companies, it is kill your competitor. Put him out of business, that's how they compete. They don't co-load. And when I left Marina and I joined PMS, we were agents for PIL, actually. So I called Constance, the owner of PIL. I said, how do you do that? You are Singapore competing with each other, but you're carrying other cargoes from Singapore. It's the most simple. I called RCL. Do you have a vessel going there? So yes. What is your load factor? I still have about 40% available. Can you carry my containers? Okay. So they get discounts, they get commission discounts. Then they offer consumption gives that also to his clients. So he doesn't spend money going to sending a ship there. Only because in the Philippines, I made that study, they live, for instance, on Sunday, average load factor, even on peak months, is only 40 to 60%. So who will assume the difference? That's why stevedoring is very high. Freight is very high. Imagine bringing a container from Cebu to Manila is more expensive than going to Singapore. I pay $100 or go to Singapore to Hong Kong. That was why, because of that kind of practice. Ayaw nila. They don't like that. They don't like that idea of co-loading.
Ano yung survey? It's a culture of competition or a cutthroat culture?
It's a cutthroat competition. Why? Because they don't like it to know what my business and what my client, kunin mo yung kliyente ko.
Yeah, the order of the president, when he assumed the presidency, is to lower the transportation cost.
But how can they do that when these people they have to recover the load factor difference? They have to take it back. So to say, ipatong nila yun. So, ang costing mo, 100%, pero ang karga nila, 60 or 40% lang. Somebody has to assume the difference. That's why our rates are very high. And I've been telling that during the time when I was still in PPA. No, why is it expensive? But we were sabi na, no, it's the port is having problem. No, it's not. So I was asking them, why don't you consolidate your kind of rates during peak seasons? Ang daming call coming from Mindanao. Why do you have to ship individually? Ship as a group.
Sir Vic, this is not part of the policy, but this is more of a business culture. So there is no policy that will tell me
That's
if
right.
I own my ship to take your cargo.
That's right.
Tama po ba, sir?
Ang maganda kasi kung gagawin naman, because as I said, it could help the economy. Like for instance, our own exporters, no? Kaya sa Cebu, ita-transship mo pa dito. Ilan bago ilog. Ang mas mahal pa yung transshipment dito from Cebu for the export cargo out to Cebu na pinadali mo sa Singapore.
Yes, sir. Even LA, it's cheaper to sell the container.
So our
from
products
LA.
will never be competitive because of this situation. That's why, when I was with the TMS, I introduced the inadapt nila ito. Okay? We have vessels coming in from Manila, then doon kami mag-out sa Davao. No? So I bring the containers bound for Singapore on the way to Davao. Then I load also cargo bound for Singapore from the loaded on our foreign vessels. Then the shipping companies question that. So sabi ko, pero declare na dito sa Cebu. i-claim na rin ang taxes.
So ito na yung punches na sinasabi ni Ma'am Sonia.
Ang nangyari nun, this is where they adapt that in bagong adjustment to the cabotage law. They pick it up from, because they asked for my opinion. I gave that idea. So that's how it started. Kaya, we bring cargoes all the way. Loading it, kaya nagalit sa akin yung mga local shipping company, bakit hindi kakarga doon? Eh, may barko ako pupunta doon sa Cebu. I load there, and then I will dump it everything in Davao. And then, that will be loaded on our vessel going to Singapore. But already, all the declarations have been made in Cebu.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, Ma'am Sonia, how do we go about
I guess
this?
that's the co-loading act that I mentioned and survey. And I guess it was the objective to reduce that. But unfortunately, until now, we're still receiving the same complaint that cargoes from Manila to Davao is still expensive than cargo to Manila to Hong Kong. So, despite the co-loading act, which allows that they can share and pick up cargoes from different ports in the Philippines as long as they are bound to a foreign port. That's existing and that has been in practice for several years, and the outcome is not what we expected as well. But now, another challenge is there is a new law that was issued in 2022 that allows 100% foreign equity. And the challenge now, until this day, we haven't had any ship yet that is under or registered under this law. So there are still interested companies, but I guess there are so many challenges in the Philippines, given our situation that there are so many government agencies that are in charge of all the logistics, the supply chain. So many departments and agencies.
So the complexity, ma'am. You're talking about the complexity of various agencies that is hampering from moving a cargo from point A to point B is not so simple as the non-maritime people.
It's not seamless, it is not easy, there are different requirements. So we are trying to address the ease of doing business. But of course, in Marina, we're limiting our efforts to those that are within Marina's jurisdiction and mandates. But still, these are the big challenge to really address such and to reduce the logistic and transport costs.
Oh, that's good to know.
More work to do, more maybe legislation to integrate, to harmonize all these government agencies and departments that are involved in the logistic and supply chain.
Okay, ma'am. With regards to the other agencies, was it helpful having the single maritime agency policy? Is this logistics included in that single maritime policy? Anybody can?
If I may go
Yes,
first.
ma'am, please.
As of now, I don't see a single maritime agency. But of course, that would help. Because in other countries, even on the safety and environment and regulatory function, there is only one maritime administration. This maritime administration first, no? Not the logistics chain, because it's a more complicated process and system. Just to implement international conventions, global standards, there are so many agencies that are involved. We can start from there, just to, on the regulatory side, particularly on the standards for seafarers, standards for safety of ships, safe operation, environment protection. There is still challenges that we need to overcome and achieve a single maritime administration. That's one. And there are other aspects of the supply chain that is involved in the whole process.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir Vic.
I remember the time when I first came in as administrator. I attended the conference, international conference, ILO and IMO. And then when we were asked to introduce the flag administration, the head of the flag administration Okay, this country, introduce yourself. Shut up. So when my turn came, Philippines. So I stood up, and everybody was laughing. Because there were 11 others stood up.
From the Philippines.
From the Philippines. Coast Guard, Shed, Labor, everybody. So, and then, if you guys know Cleopatra from IMO, she said, oh, forgive Philippines because they're still trying to make up their minds who will be the flag administration. That's why when I came back, I really worked out that all of these things should be focused on Marina. And I'm very glad that during the time of President Aquino, was it not that he consolidated everything to, but I was happy because I started with that. I fought with Secretary Santo Tomas because she wanted all the time to be there, and even the SIRB, they have to be the one to do it. I said, my God, I started to computerizing everything already, but I went to the president. We went together with Ermita to settle the issues between Marina and the labor. Sabi ko, ganito lang, simple lang. Anything that is competency, for instance, we're talking about competency, Marina. Everything about competency, including the trains, schools and everything, make Marina. When they finish, they get contracts, labor can come in. Simple. Why do you have to be part of this and that? So I was very happy that now it's consolidated with Marina now. Not all, but at least the first step has been achieved. And that is what I
Pero sir, excuse me, Sir Vic, sabi ni Ma'am Sonia, there's still no really one single maritime entity or office in the Philippines. So, ma'am, kayo ba nung tinawag doon sa, for example, sa IMO, sa UK, ilan kayo tumayo this time?
Of course, in IMO, we say it is Marina.
Okay.
That's from the outside world, they recognize Marina. That's why we are responsible, but we have to, get the input from all other agencies. So, but the challenge for Marina is we are an attached agency to a department, and other offices are even higher than us. But it's true what Sir Vic mentioned, and it's good under RA 10635. We have reduced the number of agencies that are involved in the STCW convention implementation. There's only one convention. But now, I guess, as we all know, there is a draft Magna Carta Cruciferous Bill where everything will be Marina for maritime education and training. That's the idea.
Hindi na 11 ang tumayo noong time ninyo, ma'am.
Hindi naman na. Actually, we are always confident that, this is Marina. We are Marina. We are the administration. That's outside. And they respect that. However, when you go back in the capital, that's a different scenario. And it's good that we are progressing from the time of Sir Vic because there is an executive order that created that efficiency. It's a task force, interagency task force that is in charge of the implementation of all the conventions. So meaning, we are talking, we are in the same table, but outside, Marina is standing up. But we are always consulting with all these agencies. So they are, let's say, a good collaboration among government agencies. But they respect as well that Marina should be the administration. But what I'm saying is we don't have that law that's saying that it is indeed all Marina. So it is more on institutional arrangements that we at least find effective. So far, we talk, we discuss issues that are related to maritime, but maybe it could still be improved if it is indeed one department or one agency that will handle everything.
When you were talking of Magna Carta now, I think you have to look into the details of the Magna Carta. Because there is a provision there that talks about ITF rate. Okay? Na it can even be minimum nila higher than whatever they're charging. People will be discouraged to take a Filipino and create that activities. So you have to look into that. No, before we agree on that Magna Carta, we should comment on the is it beneficial to the Philippines or not? Okay. Anyway, let me go back a little bit when I started. 4 months after I took over as administrator, I prepared a roadmap already for the maritime industry. And I invited all the big guns in the industry, in all the sectors.
When you say big guns, big ship owners,
Big ship owners, like you have Indica Properties, you have Carlos Go for the mining, you have Charlie Salinas, Doris, so all the big guns, I brought them to that in the Development Academy. Sonia knows that, we were there, right? I prepared a roadmap, and for 2 days, every sector, gumawa sila ng plano nila to work a roadmap. And then, we deliberated on it for each, and then we compiled it all together to be the target that they will do to improve the industry by every sector doing their job to contribute to an improve and develop maritime industry.
so is this the birth of the MIDP, sir?
Well, it is. But then we were supposed to, they all signed after we finalized it, they signed it as a manifesto. And then Secretary Mendoza signed it. And we all agreed that every quarter we will review the accomplishments of everybody. So we met every quarter, at every end of the month. Mag-checklist kami kung na-accomplish namin doon. But again, as we went through the process, as we proceed, there will be these people will be encountering certain policies that would affect their personal business. So this is where the political thing comes in. So nahintok na naman yun. Okay?
Kaya kasi, bago ko i-diretso yan, because yung policy natin sabi ni Ma'am Sonia, there is really no one single maritime agency. So, this is about policy again, sir. So, I don't want to say it's about policy, kaya lang, ito na yung inabot natin eh.
So, mas maganda na yun na naumpisa na nila kasi na-consolidate na ngayon lahat. No? And it starts
So, it's working on one direction na, sir.
Yeah, but we should have the political will to do it. Ang problema lang kasi, as I was telling everybody, now, the lousiest and the dullest subject in the legislature is maritime.
Well, perhaps nobody really understands the
No,
rules.
yeah, they don't understand because they will only entertain you when there is a disaster. And everybody becomes an expert in maritime. Have you attended a hearing for the Central Luzon? I attended. After the Princess of the Star, I was objected. Oh, why didn't you submit proposal? I said, you go over your list. I have submitted already, introduced a lot of recommendations for legislation, but nobody seems to be interested. You only become interested when there is a disaster, and all of you become
An expert.
expert. That's why one of the congressmen said, can you cite him for contempt?
So you were threatened for contempt.
For contempt. I have to apologize. I said, I am frustrated because I have been doing a lot of these things. I introduced them to the chairman of the Transportation Committee. But nobody listens. Yeah?
Buti hindi tinanggalan ng budget sa Marina.
Well, wala akong problema sa budget because I have a lot of friends in Congress. In fact, dinagdagan pa nila.
Bilang ko, sir.
Nag-gym pa
Si
kasi.
Ma'am Sonia, mukhang dadagdagan din siya ng Congress. Pero si Sir Al, hindi ko na itanong kung nung tinawag siya sa IMO, kung ilan silang tumayo.
Actually, medyo napakaganda ng posisyon ng Philippines during my time. As a matter of fact, doon sa STCW, binigyan tayo ng kapangyarihan to develop a model course. There were like 5 model courses that was developed by the Philippines. Hindi nyo lang masyadong napansin. We were even given the chance to redesign yung IMO model course 609 and 312. for instructors and assessors. Kaya I don't know what happened after that kasi hindi natapos during that time. But then we were able to develop 5 new courses submitted and adopted by ILO during that time. So, isa lang. Katulad na sinabi ni Ma'am Sonia, pag tayo sa labas ng bansa, yung Marina is well recognized as the administration. Unfortunately, when we come back to our own country, hindi naman kami pinapansin. Ang dami-dami kasi. I just would like to emphasize that we have ratified so many conventions. There were like 28 conventions that we have ratified. Supposedly, pag nag-ratify ka ng batas, ginagamit mo yun as your own. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of countries that would embrace the convention in toto. Parang they become automatically the law of the land. In the Philippines, we have to submit it to Congress and then to Senate before it's being approved.
The process is
The process is very long. Dalawa pa lang ang convention na magagawa natin out of the 28. And so far as I'm concerned, I do not know if there are others. I have submitted 5 during my time doon po sa party list na angkla. Unfortunately, na sinabit po natin yun, natalo po yung angkla. So after that, wala na po nag-push through 5 conventions na yun, which are actually the pillar of maritime safety. Kasama po doon yung MARPOL na pinagtatalunan po ngayon kasi ang dami-dami na po gusto makialam sa MARPOL when in fact there is no enabling law. Up to this very moment, when we ratified it in 2001, we are now talking about greenhouse, and unfortunately we have not adopted yet the Annex 1 to 5. We are now jumping into Annex 6. And I do not understand how we can implement that when we do not have any enabling law for that. And there is a target in 2030 under the UN 2030 agenda. And I don't know what happened to that. Siguro po sa INSAS
Yes, ma'am. Backing up, please.
Yes, we just completed our INSAS audit last year, and of course, one of the findings is the lack of the national legislation to implement all of this. That's why my priority legislative agenda actually includes the draft bill. It is still in the 19th Congress for the 5 conventions that Sir Al mentioned, and of course the Ship Registration Shipbuilding Act. But when I made the presentation to the President, that was January 17th, asking the President's certification for the 3 as a priority administration bill, I found it very difficult to convince him to include the bill on the domestication of international instruments. Because in reality, though we haven't had any national legislation, we are actually implementing the conventions. So the President asked me, are you implementing the conventions? Yes, Mr. President. So why is there a need for... So I was trying to explain that national legislation is still needed as a process of the international organization. But unfortunately, he just said that, okay, prioritize your legislative agenda. And when I mentioned the ship registry, he was like shocked. What? We haven't had any update on the ship registry bill. So in short, the instruction is look into the ship registry bill and the SPSR bill. But we haven't had any commitment whether they will certify it as administration priority bill. But I'm just happy with my 35 years in Marina. It is only now that we have a direct line to the Office of the President, in particular the Presidential Legislative Liaison Office, who is helping us for this legislative agenda. That's why I also agree with Sir Vic. Ito, Terra Nova, this is the accident as mentioned earlier. I have attended a Congress hearing, congressional hearing, Senate hearing, DOJ meeting, hearing on this. everything about. But I was very clear that Marina is responsible for the safe construction until before operation, and that's it. And I had even prepared a briefer on the seaworthiness of ships and what are the levels of survey, how many surveys that Marina conducts. And of course, everything is like a presumption of regularity in all the issuances of Marina. But again, I created a fact-finding body that as a procedure, if there is an incident or there are complaints, we will investigate. Because I am exercising a zero tolerance in terms of any breach of integrity or even competence. Because we rely on our technical people, so they should be doing their job properly, diligently, and with utmost integrity.
Pero ma'am, kukunti ang tao po ninyo.
Well, that's another
Ang laki ng
issue.
Pilipinas.
Sabi nga natin,
Legislation of vessels pa lang, ang dami.
the big challenge to a manager or to a leader is, given the small resources, is how you manage and do the work effectively or efficiently. Of course, so we're still working on the expansion of the marina, and we are gaining grounds in a way because we are medyo iba na po, sir, sa Congress. Meron na kaming mga nakakausap that are willing to support our bills.
Hindi ka naman kinontempt na, ma'am. Kagaya ni Sir Vic.
Well,
Wala
hindi
naman.
naman ako na-contempt, pero sa recent hearing, medyo, well, that's a different process in Congress and in Senate. It's the same process, no? But anyway, there are legislators who are willing to listen, who are genuinely interested in maritime. And the big and different, siguro difference from their time is now the President is really giving attention to maritime. Especially so, and I thank, of course, Sir Al, because he started a very concrete write-up on the development plan. Kasi although Sir Meron, hindi na ilatag ng lahat, no? All sectors. Kay Sir Al, naumpisahan niya yung tinatawag natin MIDP. Pero remember, that was 2017, adopted in 2018 by the Marina, pero adopted by the President in February of this year through the issuance of Executive Order 55. And I hope with that support from the President himself, more changes is coming.
Well, being a current Marina Administrator, ma'am, in your term, do you think it is achievable, the MIDP?
Well, I am not saying that everything in the MIDP will be achievable, but I have prioritized those that are realistically achievable given the current resources. But of course, there's still 3 years. If the resources will be increased, people will be added to Marina, then we can progress well. But still, the MIDP is very ambitious. Very ambitious because that's what we want for the industry.
Is it realistic, ma'am?
It's not realistic within the period, but it is achievable within a certain period, not 2028.
Yes, sir.
There are things,
You started it.
there are things that we need to really focus on. No? Let's start from the very beginning of the Charter of Marina. What is it is supposed to be? I mentioned to you when I started all of these things that I focus on we should attract shipping companies all over the world to register with us because they would like to do that. When I was in Cyprus to sign our bilateral agreement with Cyprus seafarers, I met with all of the ship managers there. And then by the time I came home, they signed a letter of interest that they had a total of 1,000 vessels that they would like to register in the Philippines on one condition, that the 11 different agencies they put into one. Okay? Which is actually now, it happened. And I showed that to the President when I come back. Ma'am, sabi ko, I drafted already here an executive order. Kasi kung gagawa ka ng batas for the expansion of the registry in the Philippines, it will take you years. Hindi mo gagawa yan kasi hindi interesting yan. So I drafted an executive order together with the implementing guidelines of the rules and regulations. Way back my time. Okay? It is stated here lahat na dito. It is required that the shipping companies foreign should open an office here. Okay?
So, these are the details, sir. So,
These are the details.
but the thing is, kaya tinatanong ko kay Ma'am Sol,
Oh.
do you think the next 3 years is achievable?
If you have the
Sir, na Presidente, pinag-uusapan na natin
if
dito.
you have the political will to do it, and you got the support, now I'm glad that Sonia is getting the support of some legislators already, unlike during that time. They find the issue of maritime very dull. No? Kami lang yata nag-uusap ni Presidente nun. Pero pag ipapasa niya kay Secretary Mendoza, ayaw niya. Why? Because the local shipping discourages it. And another one,
Sinasabi ni Ma'am Sol.
yeah, ito affects the money, ha? They believe that it will affect, mawala sila ng negosyo. Kasi, they will have to have their offices here, and then magkahara sila. But I said, don't worry, because they will never open money agency. They will still outsource it to you guys. And they were the ones who blocked this. Okay, I don't have to mention names, no? I mean, these are big players. Okay, so these are the things that pero mo sabi ko, ma'am, no? 1,000 vessels ito. Okay? I will just adapt the rates that Singapore is using. Maximum of $25,000 for every vessel. Times 1,000. 25 million. Ngayon, you are asking them to pay in withholding tax. Diba? Pag register Pilipinas, withholding tax. Sabi ko si Bayan, magkano ba kinukuha mo niya? How are you earning? Na-decline naman yung registry ng vessels dito. When the Bareboat law was enacted, there were 400 registered here during time of Tuason. Okay? When I took over, 167 na lang ang naiwan. Mabuti na lang, na-raise ko to 200 yun. Okay? Pero, kung ganun pa rin namang mangyayari, kung kukuliktahan mo ng withholding tax, huwag ka namang withholding tax. Honest juice na lang. Close to Marina.
So, it directly affects yung mga Department of Finance policies sa
Yeah.
nature of business.
Because of
It to there.
Yeah.
So that direction. Diba, sir?
Mahirap eh.
Is that already a Marina thing? Pero Marina is trying to set this based on the better operations, better handling, more safety, but better income, but from the perspective of the Department of Finance,
Yes.
they have a different perspective.
Yun ang problema. Kasi, aking teritoryo to, o hindi tayo magtutulungan. Hindi ganun eh. Diba? I always look at it from the point of view that it is the country that benefits.
So,
Not my department.
is that a challenge on your part?
Definitely, we know it as a challenge. That's why we are like doing the completed staff work. We are coordinating with DOF and BIR because it's no use submitting the draft without passing through these guys. Because definitely they will object when they
They will
hear.
shoot it down.
Yeah,
when it
when
gets
they
there.
hear it in Congress, definitely they will object. So that's why in the part of Marina, we have the draft bill for the ship registry. So we have reached out to DTI, to DOF, BIR. We still have to confirm. But we have to improve our narratives. Meaning, yes, this is how and how much we collect from 4.5% withholding tax. This will be collected from tonnage fee. But when you increase this, you have this domino effect in terms of employment of seafarers, their remittances, and everything else. So we hope that that strategy would be effective with the help of the PLLO because we need someone higher than us to support the initiative. So that is one strategy. We keep on saying that we have to be it's like in the private sector, when advertisement or whatever project, you should have a very good pitch. So we are preparing for that pitch when we present it to legislators, when we present it to DOF, when we present it to BIR. Because we know BIR is responsible in maintaining the government funds. Because it will affect the entire national government and everyone else. But if we could present these narratives that yes, we may lose this at first, but
You will gain
we
more.
will gain this after some these days or years, then this is more beneficial because it has a domino effect in terms of employment, the remittances that will additional businesses that will come out of this.
So it's some sort of a beacon field.
It is all here in the proposed, which is actually adopted by, who was your representative of Angla? Manalo. I gave him this, I drafted the bill that he will help out.
Kasi
Okay?
natalo daw, sir.
Oh. So, I help him. No, ang maganda dito, no? Ang maganda dito, sinabi ko sa BEA, magkano ang withholding tax mo? 4.5%. If I will collect the 25,000 per vessel, remember that the revenue of Marina, the government earns, hindi naman pupunta lang sa Marina yun, parang PPA yan eh. I generated out of one, and then we give 25% to them. Ngayon, naging 50% na. How much are we giving to the government?
Last year, our remittances total 972 million pesos for the entire year.
For the entire year.
All processing fees, tonnage fees, and everything.
If we will put this, how much the BIR are collecting, the 1.4.5? I was arguing with BIR noon. Sabi ko, magkano ba yung 4.5% mo? As against it,
So, sir, ibentahin natin ang BIR commission.
maglagay ka ng total dito, di ba? Ito ang contribution ko sa government, ito yung contribution mo. Yung 4% mo, declining pa. Yung akin, pataas. Because I will be discouraging them from you paying the withholding. But maraming add-on dyan. These people will register the companies here. Mag-rent sila ng mga buildings, di ba? Mag-hire sila ng local. Ang condition ko dito is that they will hire 100% Filipino crew. Except I will give them the choice that the master and the chief engineer, that can be the choice of the owner of the ship. Other than that, puro Filipino. And they all agree. Even the people that I talked to in Cyprus, they were willing to do that. That's why they committed 1,000 vessels.
Yes, sir.
But
Thank you, sir. Thank
ang
you.
problema
Sir
lang,
Lal, with all the input, from your perspective, do you think we can reach that MIDT next 3 more years?
Actually,
Kasi may mga input na from the past and the present.
ang MIDT kasi walang deadline. Ang MIDT is actually a guidelines. And it is being reviewed every year. Depending
Every
on
10 years.
No, no, every year.
Every year. Every year.
Yeah, you have to update the MIDT every year.
Calibrating and fine-tuning.
That's right, depending on what the need of the time. So it has to be fine-tuned every single year because you should understand the conventions, the standards and everything are actually coming up almost every year. May bago tayo ng bagong dumadating. And then if you're not going to catch up with that, sabi nga ni Ma'am Son, buti sana kung yung behind natin, nandiyan lang sa likod eh. Hindi niya ang layo natin sa behind eh. As a matter of fact, if I'm going to stress that, we are still fighting for the 2010 amendment of STCW until now. Samantalang meron na tayong pinag-uusapan ng bagong mga technology that is coming in. And it's not being incorporated with the new curriculum that we have right now.
Actually, sir, that's one thing that worries us because the technology is so fast. It's like our cell phone being overtaken by another app. So that's how maritime industry works worldwide. And tayo, sabi nga ni Ma'am Sonia, we're still behind. So how do we, before
We are far behind. And that is the reason why the MIDT actually designed to update itself every single year. Parang, kumbaga, ano yung KPI mo ngayong taon? Na-reach mo ba? Pag hindi mo na-reach yan, then next year, may i-redesign ka naman for you to be able to catch up. It is not that it is a fixed plan. Now, we would not know exactly if we're going to accomplish it or not. It is designed in 10 years. 10 years siya, lampas-lampas siya dun sa mismong duration ng mga ano namin, yung kumbaga yung coverage ng aming administration. Because we would like that it will be turned over to the next administrator. It is not that whenever there is a new guy coming in, papaguhin na naman yung sistema. Yun yung sinosolve ng
So it has to be strategic in approach.
That is right.
So kung sino man ang next administrator, one of his qualification should be he or she understand what happened last 30 years.
And I will put in another thing also. We're talking of what? Are we talking of our own ships? Na luma? Okay? Or are we talking of foreign ships? That's why,
Everything,
again,
sir, everything. Yeah.
again,
It's
let me share with you.
domestic and
Let me share
international.
with you. When I sat down as administrator and introduced this, the Philippine Shipping Modernization Program, we started with MEC. Okay? And I was discussing this. I signed an agreement with JB because JB funding that time, who was funding BBP, was about to expire. Because we never benefited from BBP. Why? Because I was telling BBP, you are no different than Lolier. Okay? Why? I am a shipping company. I borrow money to buy a new ship. Anong collateral ko? No. Not the ship. So, I came up with a program that I adopted the Japanese version after the Second World War. They developed the maritime industry so fast. How? Because the funder went into an investment banking. You need a vessel, I will fund you, but I will be part owner of that vessel. And I introduced that idea, and he said, modernization program, you have to, and that was supposed to be the program of NBC. Tapos binalikan nila ng leasing. I signed an agreement with JBEC kasi ito na nilalagay sa MEC. Pero ang nangyari doon, binago, the signatories there of that agreement was Marina, MSC, which is Mr. Villanueva, and Secretary Mendoza, and JB. But in the course of making all of this, nagpalit ng tao, pinalitan nila ang JB, ang head, from Mr. Villanueva to Mr. Benson. Eh, hindi yata pabor ang JB noon because I had some experiences with them. Anyway, to make the long story short, they changed it into leasing na lang. Bumili sila ng mga second hand, luma, ipapaagti na sa leasing daw, pero wala naman nangyari, puro luma pa rin. Di ba?
Well, anyway, sir, that was the...
we start from here.
Sir, yun yung past. And ang nakikita ko kasi, sir, ngayon, as Engineer Al was talking about, is lagi, new technology, sabi ni Ma'am Sonia, we have to catch up. Sabi mo nga, ito sa yung nakaraan. So, before we close the forum this afternoon, sir, will you be willing, Ma'am Sonia, to accept more input coming from the previous administrators and to the Philippine Merchant Marine Academy Alumni Association for input? So maybe since we belong to the industry, academic, and of course you're part of the government as part of the triple helix approach, maybe we could it's also time for us to participate and help. Hindi lang laging the burden always belongs to Marina lang, lagi na lang mali, lagi na lang sinisisi. Siguro, this is about time, sir, ma'am, para dumami lalo kakampay mo sa industry.
Thank you. Yes, definitely. As one of my 10-point agenda is indeed a stronger partnership with all the stakeholders. The government is always saying whole of government approach. Mine is whole of nation approach, because these are all shared between the government and the stakeholders. We have to synchronize. We have to forge a stronger partnership so that we can go to the same direction. Because sometimes the government is going this direction, the others are going there, or there is a detour. The important thing is we are all together in the same direction, and we are not pulling each other down. because we will never reach any destination if most of us are fooling those who are ahead. If we are not moving in sync and in the same direction, nothing will change in the industry. So I always believe in consultation. Of course, in consultation, not everything that you will say will be considered. So we should be open, and I hope I can develop that trust in the government that we have nothing in our goal and objective but the interest of the many. So we are not protecting interests of the few, but it's always the interest of the public, of the many seafarers, the riding public, the shippers, and the consumers who are the end user of all of the transport services. Whatever we implement, it will boil down to the added cost to whatever we are using. Because it will be, transport cost is always part of the cost of any good or commodity. And as we always say that 90% of goods globally is always transported by sea. So we cannot get away with that. And it is still the cheapest mode of transport of cargo, even in the Philippines. Even if you continue to say that transport of cargoes from Manila to Davao is still more expensive than going to Hong Kong, if you compare and transport that via aviation or via air, it's still more
expensive.
higher and expensive. So the government is, and we have the MIDP, and as Sir Al said, it's a strategic. But during my term, I have identified my priorities, and I feel those priorities will serve as enablers, because we need enablers to push forward. We cannot jump to the bigger goal when we don't have the enablers. So we are starting from the enablers to jumpstart everything. And hopefully with that momentum, beyond 28, we can reach that goal of the Philippines being a strong maritime nation and a powerhouse in terms of maritime.
Thank you, Ma'am Sonia. Sir B, before we close the...
In closing, let me share this, that if we will have to really make that prediction of what is we realize, let's look at the entire maritime industry holistically. We should just focus purely on seafarers. We should only focus on, but holistic. The maritime, if you have a ship, you need a crew. If you have a ship, you need a shipyard. If you want to bring out, but our shipyards were relegated to purely repair ships. It's no longer making ships. We are supposed to be, with the coming in of JNC, we became number 4 in the world. Now, in the program that I submitted here, this is not just funding shipping. This is a program to include funding shipyards, that we build the ships here. How can you develop seafarers when you don't have you have a very lousy ship? See, why don't we improve our maritime? Then we start with ourselves and develop this. Wala man. Because we're using second-hand vessels. Wala. So,
we're headed to new technology now.
New technology. So, we will always be behind and farther. That's why we should look at it holistically. Not just seafarers, but look at it. The ship owners, we should have them improve. We should help the shipyards. And everybody concerned for the whole country. Together we will build that thing holistically. It's so difficult to come up with a program na dito pala. Walang effect dito. Wala rin yan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, we have na po under the MITP, and it includes even technology and innovation. So we have covered not only the seafarers, we even want, it's the whole maritime workforce, ship managers, ship handling, shipyard workers, everyone in the industry, we have included in the MITP.
Yes, ma'am. Kasi it's always interconnected.
Yes.
It's always interconnected. Anyway, Sir Al, before we close, yes, sir.
Thank you. Maraming pong salamat sa mga nakikinig. Maraming pong salamat sa pagkakataon na pinagkaloob niyo sa amin. one of the things that I would like to impress, actually, MIDP is there already. We designed it in June. Actually, we launched it in June of 2017. And it should have been signed in 2018. But unfortunately, katulad nga na sinabi ni Ma'am Son, 2024 lang napirmahan yung planong dinisign namin noong 2017. So, ganong katagal bago na aprubahan. Now, this is going to be a very good, I would rather suggest sa inyo mga nakikinig that MIDP is online. You can read it, okay? Definitely you can come up with some suggestions or recommendations of your own. If in case you have one, then probably Marina is open to accept that. Now, in closing, I really would want to impress this kasi nung nasa Marina ako, yung plano ko sa yung, you know, it is not impossible to come up with one maritime administration. You know why? UK has one. Australia has one. Japan has one. European Union has one. Bakit po yung Pilipinas hindi magawa? You know, bakit we don't have to reinvent the wheel because we just have to copy what is existing right now. Katulad po nung pinagtatalunan natin sa West Philippine Sea na naging topic ng mga nakaraan. Yung pong EEZ, meron na po ng mga models that we can, you know, actually follow. Why do we have to come up with our own when there are examples that are already existing and effective? Yung po yung sa akin. Kung pwede lamang po na maging open ang mind natin, kopyahin natin yung iba kasi tayo naman po nandun na sa dulo, wala na pong masama kung mangopya na tayo. Kasi for us to be able to catch up at least, magkaroon tayo ng, you know, meron tayong konting susundan.
Benchmark, sir.
Yeah.
Benchmark.
Let us copy what other countries are actually practicing right now. And they have been very effective, they have been very efficient in implementing a one maritime administration. Sana po, bago man lang magsara ang aking mata sa aking buhay ngayon, makita ko po na mag-exist ang single maritime administration. Yung pong DMW, ang bilis eh. Bakit po yung maritime na napaka-importante sa ating importante industriya, hindi po natin magawa ng isang departamento. Parang hindi po halo-halo sakot-sari. Kasi kaya po tayo hindi makausad kasi ang dami pong kontra. Katulad po ng sinasabi ni Survey, katulad po ng sinasabi ni Ma'am Son. Pag meron kang plano o kontrahin ka kagad, hindi mo pa nga na-implement, may kontra ka na kagad. But if we have one maritime administration, what was dictated in the International Maritime Organization, wala po tayong magiging problema. Katulad po ng naranasan natin ngayon. Maraming pong salamat.
Salamat po sa inyo lahat. Thank you very much, Dr. Alcamaro, Administrator Ma'am Sonia, and Survey. Salamat po sa inyo tatlo. And with that, we're not just about to close the forum this afternoon, pero ipapakita po natin sa kanila yung single maritime. Can we put our hands together and have this picture sent to the President of the Republic of the Philippines? The PMA is representing the industry together with the former Marina Chief and the present one, and we are one to move forward to the modernization, MIDP, to the low-hanging fruits of maritime. At dito na po tayo lahat. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.
Sir Wayne, I would like to request our distinguished panel to stay. So we will be giving you our token of appreciation in behalf of the Philippine Merchant Marine Academy Philippine Association. And maybe call on Captain Victoria, sir, Captain Dr. Eliason, and to give our token of appreciation to our panel of speakers, panel of subject matter experts. We are presenting you our coffee table book, The History of PMMA, 200 Years, and counting. As a bicentennial book. Yes. And we will be visiting your respective office to give our certificate of appreciation. Tama ko? To conclude our forum, I would like to invite Captain Vermar Balila, the chairman of the Continuing Education Committee, to deliver our closing remarks.
Okay, to our honorable guest speakers, Ma'am Sonia Malaluan, Sir Vicente Suazo Jr., and Sir Marshall Q. Amado III. Thank you very much, sirs, ma'am, for the very lively discussions this afternoon. To Commodore Jerry Simon for being a mediator for the discussion. For the co-board members, friends in the media, participants, and guests today, thank you for attending our forum this afternoon to listen on the important discussions about our maritime industry or the complex issues and how we plan to tackle such challenges through insights of our former and current policymakers in the maritime industry. As we move forward with hopes of a better and brighter maritime future, we join all to share our talents and contribute however we might be able to do so, as we stand united in the forefront of all these ever-changing needs to keep abreast with the times and keep ourselves at the forefront of all these challenges. Again, we thank you all for your time and attendance. Mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you, sir. Captain Engineer Balila, sir. And our third Blue Ocean Forum is now officially closed. Thank you, sir. Please stand by for our part 2, our fellowship party, and everything else.
Anytime Maritime.
Anytime Maritime. Anytime Maritime. Anytime Maritime.